Hi duckies, it's me again. How are you? Hope you're well. Let me just put this down. Double top lip. It's a bit hot in this flat. Got underfloor heating, so it resonates up, and I've got most of the windows closed because it's a bit nippy outside. I thought I'd try and do this video in about as short as I could do it, and do two parts. And what I want to talk about in this vlog is how I came to my transition, the things that brought me to my transition. So I wanted to go back to when I was 5, back in 1982. The first concept I had about anything to do with gender was when I was 5 years old. And I had a group of friends. They were multicultural friends. Basingstoke is a multicultural city back then. It still is. It's like an overspill from London. And I had a group of friends, and a couple of them were girls and a couple of them were boys, and it was a mixture of a group. And I really liked my first year at Basingstoke. I didn't like moving to Basingstoke because I lived in rural Yarmouth on the Isle of Wight, and so moving to Basingstoke was a bit of a culture shock. But being in Basingstoke was the first time I can remember having a concept of gender. It was when I was 5, back in 1982, as I said. And one of my girlfriends, one of the girls who was a friend of ours, was talking about how she was a tomboy and how she identified as being a tomboy. This is what she was saying to us. She was like, I'm a tomboy, and stuff like this. And I distinctly remember thinking to myself, that is so cool. I wish I could be a tomboy. And that's the first memory I had of anything to do with gender, to do with me. I wanted to be a tomboy. The idea of being a tomboy, mixing in with the lads, but also being a girl and doing all those sorts of things that she did, I loved. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a girl and do those sorts of things. The next concept I had about gender was when I got a lot older. As I grew up, I always used to, when the family became a bit religious, we started going to church a lot on Sundays. I started to get scared about stuff. So you always used to hear about how homosexuality is not good in the church and stuff like this. So I had bisexual thoughts, but I didn't act on them. I didn't act on them with anybody else. I just had the thoughts. And I knew, to me, because of what the church was telling me, that they were a sin. That's what I thought. And I thought that God would punish me. So whenever I would think about anything that was bisexual or what people would consider to be gay, if I had a fantasy or anything like that, I would feel that God would then punish me for the rest of the day. And things would happen during the day that would make me reinforce that belief. It's all a load of rubbish, I know that, but I was very young. So I suppressed a lot of the feelings I had as I grew older. But I always had in the back of my mind the thought that I would like to be, if I had a choice, if God could come down and wave his magic wand or her magic wand, I would choose to be a woman, a girl, and grow up as a girl. But other than that, I didn't really have much concept. As I got older, I heard about people transitioning, but I thought of it, but it was always in the tabloids, and I didn't like tabloid newspapers. I thought they were a bit mucky, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. I didn't really think about it much. I did, but I thought it was something that was out there, that wasn't to do with me, that was something that the tabloids talked about, and was something that they would deal with. It was something that was in the papers and it didn't affect me, but I didn't really look into it. I just had heard these stories. I didn't really think about it much. I had no real concept of transitioning. It never came up in my life. No one ever talked about it. All I knew was that if I could, if God could wave his magic wand, I'd love to be a woman. I'd love to be a girl. About the age of 13, 14, I started to cross-dress, and that happened all through my teenage years, right up into adulthood. And before I transitioned, I cross-dressed. I was a transvestite. I was a cross-dresser. I didn't go out in public. I would stay at home and do it at home. But I always knew that I wanted to be a woman, but I never had a concept of transitioning, a trans woman, stuff like that. I never had an idea of that. I heard of men transitioning, changing their sex, But I just thought that was tabloid rubbish, and it was also very expensive. If you wanted to do it, you'd have to have a lot of money, and you wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to afford it. The idea of transitioning in those days was out the window. I didn't think you could have it on the NHS. I just thought it was something you did if you had loads of money and you could afford it, so I didn't do it. So all the way up until 28, when I first started to transition, go on the hormones, I cross-dressed. I cross-dressed in when I lived in Wales, when I was living at home with my parents and all the rest of it. The thing that started the transition off, it's very weird situation, but when I went into a pawn shop. This is how it started. This is how the realisation of transgender and that I could do it happened. I was in a pawn shop. I was into porn, gay, straight, bi. I wasn't really into cross-dressing porn, but I was into that sort of stuff. And a little bit of cross-dressing porn, but not a lot. I was in the pawn shop and my eyes were drawn to this magazine on the counter. And it was the Commonwealth Garden stuff. It was a trans magazine. And I was intrigued, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I picked it up, and I opened it. And the first page I came to was this girl. She was naked, apart from a see-through nightie type thing on. And she was just standing full exposed on the A4 bit of paper in all her glory. And it was a transvestite. It was transsexual, sorry. And a transgender person. Still no bottom surgery, just top surgery, or basically down to hormones. That's what I gauged later on. I looked at it, and my instant reaction when I saw the picture of this girl was not, she's gorgeous, or anything like that. The first reaction I had when I saw the picture was, I want to be like that. That's what I want to do. That was my instant reaction when I saw the picture. And after that, everything changed. It was like a light bulb had gone off. I suddenly realised could transition, but I didn't have any concept of the word transition. So I started to look stuff up online after I'd had my light bulb moment in the pawn shop. Everything changed. I took the magazine home, I went through it, I looked at it. I then started to try and find stuff online, but I was engaged at the time, so I tried to suppress my feelings because I thought, well, I can't really do this. This is not. I'm engaged. I'm planning to get married. I'm with this wonderful girl. What I didn't realise was the light bulb moment when I saw this picture of this trans girl had totally changed everything, and it totally changed the relationship. As my relationship with my fiance went on, I began to resent her. I began to feel frustrated. I realised what I wanted to be and what I could be. I started to research more. I started to look into it, and something that I hadn't done since I had been engaged and going out with my partner, which is cross-dress. I hadn't been cross-dressing for a number of years up until that point. I then started to cross-dress again. I started wearing I was male, so I was wearing clothes of the opposite sex. I got my kicks from that sometimes, but most of the time it was just dressing. It was a light bulb moment, but I didn't realise the impact it would have on my relationship with my fiance, and the relationship over the course of the year when I had my light bulb moment died. The relationship died, and by the spring of '97 it was over. The relationship was over, we broke up, all the rest of it. It was sad. I was sad. It devastated me. It knocked me for 6. I was very low. I suffered depression, something I'd suffered with all my life, but my mental health problems were made manifestly worse. I found it difficult to cope. She was my crutch to some degree. I had moved out of my family's home. I was 17 when I'd moved out to live with her. I was now 21. I was now on my own. The next few years were difficult. They were very difficult. I was in a dark place. But the whole time I was going on this journey, I still wanted to transition, but I had no concept of it. I didn't know anything about it. I'd only found a few things online, so I knew about hormones and what they could do, but that was all I knew. So I had to go away and look it up and research more. But where I was in Wales, I couldn't do that, and I was trying to build a social life because I was isolated up there, and I couldn't come out to anybody. But there was this one trans person up there, Paul. She was open about her cross. She was a transvestite. She was open about her cross-dressing, and I envied her. I wished I could be like that. I wished I could sort of transition like that. I wish I could be open and dress in public and go out and be open like she was and meet guys and all the rest of it. But I was trying to build a social life in Wales. I still had the paranoia that this was all wrong. I hadn't broken out of that mindset. I still thought that if I had a gay thought, I would be punished. If I thought about cross-dressing, I'd be punished. If I dressed that night, I would be punished. I still hadn't got out of that mentality yet. Okay, so that's where we are. We're up now to 1999, 2000. I lived in Wales for a time. I met a girl. I got her pregnant. I tried to settle down with her, but I couldn't because I was still up here wrong. I was still suffering from a mental health problem. I hadn't had it addressed. I'd gone up to Wales to seek help, but I hadn't had it addressed whilst I was up there. I wasn't getting the support. There wasn't the support in Newtown in Mid Wales for that sort of support. They had a mental health clinic and facility, but it didn't have the finances or the where to do to support people. So we were basically left to our own devices. We were given medication, but we were left mainly to our own devices. So that's where we are. It's 1999, 2000. I'm cross-dressing still in Newtown in my spare time when I've got a private moment. But one thing I'm always doing is wearing a sarong. Wherever I am in my flat, whenever I have friends around, I'm wearing a sarong. No one questions it. It's my only outward expression of my transness. But everybody just accepted it as the sort of thing David Beckham does. So, Lennie's doing it, so it's no big deal. Then I came back to the south of England and I continued to cross-dress. But it was only now that I was saying to psychiatrists, I need to address this. It's burning inside of me. I need to address it. So that's where we are then in 2000. I'm looking for support to deal with it, but no psychiatrist is taking me up. So in 2001, I moved to Southampton, which then had a very good mental health department and mental health team. And there I started to see somebody about my gender dysphoria, my feelings and wanting to transition. And by that time, I'd found a lot out on the internet or through talking to people. So that's where we are. I hope you don't mind me talking about this in the way I have. I hope I haven't said anything bad. It's just that it's the language I use. It's difficult to say about my coming to my transition because it was all fragmented through my life. I mean, a lot of people who know me from my past wouldn't have guessed that I'd become a trans woman. I'd become a woman. They wouldn't have thought that. Not the girls I went out with and dated, the way I behaved with them. Not my family. I mean, when I first came out to my family, it was out of left field for them. They knew I cross-dressed, but they didn't know I wanted to be transgendered, a transsexual, to be a woman. So that's where we are. It's 2000, and I'm looking for help support. So next time on this vlog, I will try and go into the next detail of where I went from them and cover some stuff that's been in the part that I've talked about in this vlog, just to clarify. But I hope that was helpful. I hope it's pricked your interest for the next vlog. Be safe. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye. It's not working. Bye.